Welcome to the Food Science Snob. Hey guys, and welcome to episode 2. The myth I will be slaying today is gluten intolerances. Okay, so we've all been there. You're out to eat with a bunch of your friends, and someone's looking at the menu and goes,
"Oh, I can't eat anything here. I'm gluten-free now."
And you just think to yourself, really? Or you either think, wow, you're so healthy. Like, I wish I could be gluten-free, but that's just too hard for me. I have plenty of friends like this, and honestly, the reason for this episode is so hopefully I can stop hearing that every time we go out to eat. Okay, guys, I have this conversation at least once a week, so if I get a little heated, I'll try to compose myself and calm down, but if I do, that's why. Alright, so let me just clear the air and start by saying I love gluten. Bread, dessert, cereal, those are my jam, okay, y'all? I love them, love. And no shame here, I don't care, I got big thighs, but I really don't think I could ever go on a gluten-free diet. Unless, I was diagnosed with celiac disease or something like that, of course, then I would have to. But I'm never gonna choose to go gluten-free, okay? So, for all of you out there choosing to go gluten-free, wow, major props to you because I could never. But over the last several months, I will say that this trend of being gluten-free has caused a very negative opinion over gluten, which, that's not cool to me because I love gluten, but think about it. When you hear the word gluten-free in a recipe or on the back of a package of baked goods, you think,
"Yay, this food is healthy. I'm eating so good. This is so good for me."
But do any of us really know if that's true? Do you know? Because I didn't before, but it's just the common misconception. So that is the myth that we are slaying with science today. Because not gonna lie, I was one of those people too, and I was like, wow, props to everyone out there being gluten-free because they are on a whole nother level of healthy that I will never get to. But if you have the same mindset, I want you to stay tuned because this podcast might end up surprising you. What I'm basically saying here is that we need to stop being swayed by all those elite athletes and movie stars and celebs trying to restrict your diet because when there's no medical reason to do so, why do it? You're honestly just torturing yourself. Eat food. It's there for enjoyment, okay? Eat what you want. Don't listen to all those people. It's up to you, and it's up to your doctor. Not a celebrity, not a book author, none of those people, and that's it. Okay, sorry, you're only 2 minutes in and I started doing it. I'm gonna stop ranting now. Let's get snobby. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating here a little bit. After all, health fads, especially diet ones, have come and gone for decades upon decades, and gluten-free is just that next hot one, right? So if you're considering limiting your consumption of gluten, I'm not bashing you, and you're certainly not alone. But before you do, the question I want to answer for you is this. Will restricting the gluten you eat improve your health / make you feel better? So, what do you say, guys? Let's just dive right in. So, at the beginning of this episode, I mentioned a disease. And I'm sure you're wondering what that disease is. So, for all of you out there that were only half listening earlier, the disease is celiac disease. And celiac disease is a severe gluten intolerance where eating a gluten-free diet is the only option because their bodies cannot digest gluten at all. And when they do, it causes an autoimmune response that attacks the lining of the small intestine. So usually people with celiac disease will tend to eat gluten-free substitutes of options out there. And these options usually include cornmeal, flax, quinoa, rice, and millet. And let me say this first to emphasize this and make it super clear to you. This is not a food allergy, okay? Okay. It is a physical condition in your gut. So basically, undigested gluten proteins, prevalent usually in wheat and other grains, hang out in your small intestine. And here they are treated in your body as a foreign invader. They irritate your gut and flatten the microvilli along the sides of your small intestine walls. Without these microvilli, you have considerably less surface area with which to absorb the nutrients from your food. This leads to suffering and experience of symptoms such as malabsorption, including chronic fatigue, neurological disorders, nutrient deficits, anemia, nausea, and skin rashes. For these individuals, removing gluten from your diet can heal the gut and the myriad of symptoms that follow, and also, depending on the level and degree of the intolerance, which can usually range anywhere from gluten sensitivity to full-blown celiac disease. It is actually possible to eventually reintroduce properly prepared grains, such as sourdough that is fermented before and sprouted grains. Okay, but now there's also something called a wheat allergy. And a wheat allergy is a big difference than celiac disease or any other milder gluten intolerance. And actually, it's been shown that more people every day are announcing that they are gluten intolerant, despite having actually been tested by a physician or having a real diagnosis. So people are misdiagnosing themselves and saying they're gluten intolerant when really they might just have a wheat allergy. In fact, the author of Food Politics, who is also a nutrition and public policy expert, points out that a real diagnosis for gluten intolerance is not only difficult, but costly. And not to mention, these tests are really painful. Okay, I've had one when I was little for like pollen and grass, and let me just tell you, getting a bunch of shots all over your body is not fun, and I still have nightmares, guys. Which is why she thinks it's so strange that just a couple of decades ago, gluten intolerance levels were at a 1 in 2,500 worldwide ratio, and today they're at a 1 in 33. So basically, all of you hypochondriacs out there need to stay off of WebMD, okay? But symptoms of gluten intolerance can range from mild to severe. These can include nausea or apophylaxis. So, wheat allergies are usually diagnosed by allergenists using a blood or skin prick test. This will include a blood test that detects for certain antibodies, genetic tests, and intestinal biopsies. The results can help you understand which, if any, foods you should avoid. You may also learn that you can actually eat anything you like, or you could find out that maybe you're lactose intolerant and not gluten intolerant at all. Or it may turn out that you have another common condition that's unrelated to gluten at all, such as Crohn's disease, ulcer, or irritable bowel disease. If you do believe truly that you do have a gluten intolerance, I highly suggest going to see your physician. So, is gluten intolerance on the rise, or is it just a fad? It's probably your next question here. Or are you like many out there who aren't even entirely sure what gluten is, besides the fact that it's found in bread and it's supposed to be bad for you? Well, for all of you who just subconsciously answered yes to that second question, here's your answer. Gluten is a protein. Though often thought of as a single compound, it refers to many different types of proteins found in wheat, barley, and rye. It can also be found in a variety of foods such as bread, beer, desserts, French fries, and even some soy sauces. It helps foods such as cereal, bread, and pasta hold their shape. Gluten proteins such as glutenin and gliadin are also highly elastic, which is why gluten-containing grains are suited for making bread and other baked goods. It acts as a binder to hold foods together and adds that stretchy quality. So, think of a pizza maker, tossing and stretching out a ball of dough. Without the gluten in that dough, the dough would rip easily and the consistency of the dough would not be the same. Now that we know what gluten is, let me answer the question you really all came here for. First question. Why do gluten diets make you feel better? Well, there are several reasons why most people feel better after eating a gluten-free diet. First, avoiding gluten usually means cutting back on processed foods, as it is found in a wide variety of highly processed foods such as fast food, baked goods, and sugary cereals. These foods not only contain gluten, but are typically also high in calories, sugar, and unhealthy fats. So many people who say they are losing weight or feel less fatigue or have less joint pain after having a gluten-free diet are likely seeing these benefits because of attributes that follow unhealthy foods, not necessarily gluten. Okay, question 2, the one you actually probably care about. Should I personally go gluten-free? Well, the quick answer here is it can either be a yes or a no. It completely depends on you as an individual. I mean, some people have peanut allergies, but does that mean everyone should avoid peanuts? No. What I'm trying to say here is don't give up gluten because you think it's a healthier way to eat. Unless you have to go gluten-free to manage a medical condition, it's not. Carbohydrates should make up 55 to 60% of a healthy diet, and that's where gluten is found. Cutting out wheat, rye, barley, and other grains that provide gluten eliminate the key sources of complex carbohydrates needed to have a balanced diet. Also, things that are lost are fiber, B vitamins, folate, iron, calcium, and vitamin D provided by fortified breads and cereals. Gluten-free breads, cereals, and crackers may help you fill the void, but they tend to be lower in fiber and generally not fortified. Often, they actually contain more sugar and fat to make up for the texture and flavor that is lost in gluten as well. I know you're going to hate to hear it, but the reality is that gluten-free junk food or desserts are certainly no healthier than gluten-containing counterparts. For example, if you take a regular cookie, that is 70 calories. The same gluten-free cookie can go as high as 210 calories because you have to substitute the gluten for things that make the cookie taste palatable. So they usually load it with fat and sugar. 1 gram of protein is 4 calories. 1 gram of fat is 9. So just because you are eating gluten-free does not certainly mean that you're eating healthier, unless you're cutting out all these junk foods as well and sticking to fruits and vegetables and those types of things. So keep that in mind. I mean, yeah, you could totally take supplements to replace B vitamins. Fiber, zinc, iron, potassium, and all those other things that you'll be missing from your gluten-free diet, but people tend to absorb nutrients best when they come from the food and not a supplement. Not to mention that buying all the supplements you'll need will be very costly. I mean, the price of those on top of your already more expensive gluten-free food is just going to be so expensive. I mean, on average, gluten-free products are 242% more expensive than regular goods. So, if you're balling like that, I mean, go for it, I guess. But me personally, I'd rather just eat gluten. Furthermore, a study published in the BMJ in 2017 concluded that a person who follows a gluten-free diet without having celiac disease has a higher risk of cardiovascular disease in the long term. This is because they will miss out on all the heart-healthy benefits of whole grains. Another study published in the Epidemiology found that people eating a gluten-free diet had higher concentrations of arsenic in their urine and mercury in their blood. Those toxic metals might be linked to a gluten-free eating through consuming large amounts of rice, which is known to absorb inorganic arsenic as it grows. Consider this myth slid. Okay, so now that you have all the facts, what will you choose? Are you going to get tested for all these intolerances or allergies? Are you going to continue to stick with your gluten-free diet? Are you going to keep consuming gluten like me? Are you going to change your diet to the dark side, depending on which diet you are currently consuming? Let me know your thoughts through DM or commenting on my blog. Oh yeah, little side note. If you are someone who is scared of eating gluten because you think it makes you bloat or makes your gut unhealthy, stay tuned for next week's episode, which is going to be all about bloating and gut health. Alright guys, that's it for this episode. I hope I answered all of your questions. I'm your snob, Ariel Carter. I hope you all enjoyed it, and be sure to subscribe to the podcast and follow me on my social medias. If you want to let me know your thoughts on this week's podcast, you can DM me at Food Science Snob on Instagram or Twitter. I'll talk to all of you guys on my next episode. Bye!